A warm welcome from CXOTV.news, a flagship brand under Techplus Media Group. I am Anand Sharma from Techplus Media, your host for today's event. I'm super excited to bring to you yet another eventful event under the series Marketing Mondays. Well, we initiated the series when the lockdown started, the first lockdown. Okay, and we are heading towards almost 1 year of successfully completing the series with the intention to provide a platform to marketeers to learn from fellow marketing gurus. Today we bring a very interesting topic: organizational versus personal branding, complementing or conflicting. Guys, we all know brand building is a process of generating awareness and promotion of the services of a company through direct advertising campaigns or through sponsorships. Brand building strategies bring consumers closer to the brand and provide value for them so that they can know, feel, and experience the brand. We often see organizational and personal branding as two different topics. But what if both of them complementing or contradicting each other? Companies pay huge focus on the leadership branding to add value to the organizational brand value, which is a plus. It becomes an issue or a conflict when the personal branding assumes importance or prominence over organizational brand. Well, how much is good and where to draw the line? For example, we know Elon Musk from Tesla or SpaceX, but we also know Tesla from Elon Musk, and there's so many other examples. We have seen the effect of brand damages on one because of the other, whether be it organizational or be it personal. Let's open the Pandora's box. In case you want us to touch upon anything specific during our discussion today or have a question, please mention that in the Q&A section or the chat panel. We have an eminent panel today. Deviating from the customary introduction, which I love to do, I'll request the panelists to introduce themselves. Debmalya De Roy, we call him Deb. Deb is the Chief Revenue Officer and Global Marketing Head at PI Data Centers. Deb, why don't you give a complete introduction of yourself?
And I'm the Chief Revenue Officer and Global Marketing Head for Data Centers. Uh, just over 2 decades in this industry, right? Very much into data center and cloud all through and through, right? Have been with some of the global conglomerates like HP, the Tatas, the World RPG Group, and then finally with Pi. And I'm very excited to be part of this. I'm looking forward to a very interesting panel discussion today.
Our second panelist is Ms. Dharti Shethiya. She is CMO at Atrina Technologies. Over to you, Dharti.
Hi guys, my name is Dharti Shethiya and I work as Chief Marketing Officer at Atrina Technologies Private Limited. I started working at the age of 17 with Mondelez as an intern in packaging, and right now in my 7 to 8 years of journey in the marketing and sales industry, I am with a tech firm and I provide global marketing services that is in 4 countries throughout. Thank you.
Our third and last panelist is Ms. Garima Sinha. She is lead product marketing at Microsoft Business Application. Welcome, Garima, and please give your introduction.
Thank you, Anand, and thank you everyone, and thank you viewers for your time today. And it's my privilege to be in panel today. Last 18 years in marketing, have handled B2B and B2C, all portfolios and marketing. And last few months at Microsoft. Before that, I have worked with Wipro. And last 8 years at Wipro, and recently I've joined Microsoft as lead product marketing for Microsoft Dynamics. And I'm hoping to have a great conversation today with Deb and Dharti. And thank you, Anand, for inviting me to this panel discussion. Really looking and excited for this.
I once again welcome Deb, Dharti, and Garima. The order is just an alphabetical order of the names. Friends, we have a great panel today from established firms, right? And we look forward to learning from them, learning from the leaders. So Deb, let me start with you. Okay, I always start with basics so that we are very much clear as to what are we trying to dissect. So why don't you start with your thoughts on what is a brand? What constitutes a brand?
Thanks, Anand. I think that's an interesting one. While it sounds to be basic, I think that's what forms the DNA of when you take it to the market. And I have this very unique background to address this because you know before being a marketer, I'm a business person as well, right? So I think I see best of both the worlds together and then bring that combination in. Just to put into perspective, today what we see, Anand, is the market is kind of swarmed with with zillions of products which are commoditized and services around, right? So it's very important that there is a distinct identity that gets created, right, which stands out from the clutter. Right, it's very important. And if I have to simplify, that's what is brand, right? When you distinct your identity from the clutter, right, and you allow your audience right, to know what is expected out of you, right, and that's in a simplistic way what brand is, right. I move a little ahead, right, in terms of do a little more deep dive, right. Um, so the brand, right, as a concept, it not only distinguishes us from the competition, right, but what does is it communicates, right? It communicates what's up our sleeves. Right? It communicates what are we there for, right? The purpose of the entity to be there in the first place, right? And how it is relevant to the audience, the client, as you want to name it as. So when we kind of do a little more deep dive in terms of and extrapolate brand beyond that, right? Uh, your brand is built, to be a true representative of who you are, right? As a personality, your business, right? And how you wish to be perceived. So that whole combination is what we call as a brand, right? And that's what you do a brand imaging, for, right? So that if that kind of gives the clarity of what brand is.
Dharti, over to you, Dharti. What are the different types of brand strategies? And I'll say which one is to be used when, if there's a classification like this.
Branding is a part of marketing. It's a marketing practice. So a lot of people differentiate between branding and marketing as two different entities. But to be very honest, branding is nothing but a part of marketing practice where your business has its own identification, which means I'll give you a very basic example, and it might sound funny, but women could relate. So Garima, give me a heads up on this. So for example, when I first used to introduce myself, I used to introduce myself as Dharti Deepak Shethiya, which is before my marriage, where me as a brand was Dharti and the organization was Deepak Shethiya behind it. Currently, I introduce myself as Dharti Shethiya Gori, where the main brand, that is Dharti, remains same, but the organization changes. That is the second half of my name, Shethiya Gori. Now, what actually has happened with this example is that brand remains the same, whereas this is where conflict of organizational branding and personal branding comes into being. Now, branding could be that of different type. It could be a corporate or company branding. It could be individual branding, attitude branding, and brand extension branding. Now, these are four different core ways which could be used both in organizational branding and personal branding. To make it very clear and to make it easy to understand to a lot of people who are watching, how these four categories come into both of the entities is when you're doing corporate or company branding, you are designing a logo, you're giving a slogan, you're giving your brand a color, you are making banners for it, and you're running ads for it. This is the same thing that you do when you're doing personal branding, that you are designing your own brand. It is either with your face, it is either with your hair color, or it is with what you post on your social media platforms. I'll give you an example for this one. Mahendra Singh Dhoni, MS Dhoni, he is back to IPL with CSK. His brand identity, his personal branding was his brown hair and his bike collection. If you see the recent advertisement that Gulf Oil has been doing, so they've actually used this part where they've brought in the old Dhoni with the brown hair and his bike mark with the same hat, saying that we have preserved the old Dhoni, we have preserved the personal brand Dhoni, and thus you should buy our oil. So this is one example of how personal branding has been actually been used in company or corporate branding. Another one is individual branding. That is where every product in in a particular brand has its own brand or own identity. For example, ITC. Now, ITC could have multiple product of itself, which are actually branded separately. It could be Sunfeast, it could be Bingo. They are individual brands and have individual identity. But and in a very similar way, individual branding for personal branding, examples that I'll take is Gary Vaynerchuk. I think a lot of marketers follow Gary V. A lot of marketers follow this guy and see what he is doing. So, for example, with brand, we follow him. We follow his wine library. A lot of us who do not drink wine would still go and follow wine library to see what is it that he's speaking about. He has a
Hmm.
podcast that is 1.37. He has Gary Vaynerchuk Media. So we follow a brand because of his personal identity. So that is how individual branding works. Now, one of my favorite and the strategy which one should use the most is brand extension branding. Something that we are doing right now with Tech Plus Media. Tech Plus Media is branding itself as an entity where marketers could find a lot of knowledge, a lot of understanding about marketers, where you have extended your brand to other marketers. And I come from an IT company, but I sit here as a panel and I market our brand, saying that we have good marketers, saying that we have knowledge of the subject. So brand extension branding is something that I would recommend to everybody who is there in the industry to do. That move beyond, understand what the other brand is doing, collaborate with the other brand, speak with the other brand, and cross function. Your audience is their audience, and their audience is your audience. Take your product ahead and give your brand a face, a value, and everything, and a potential to create something more than what you already do. So that's about different types of brand strategies that one could use. And my favorite one, that is brand exchange.
Wow, absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, Dharti. That was quite informative. And I was just thinking, that perhaps I'll need to go through this again on demand recording to, there's a lot of information that you have shared. Thank you so much. Garima, over to you, Garima. Uh, how do you segregate between organizational versus personal branding? Okay. You come from a very large organization at the moment. So if
I
you want to
know.
draw any parallels, what are the strategies? Please go ahead.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely, Anand. And that way, I loved what you said, and I completely agree in terms of the brand extension and the examples which you gave. So, thank you so much for the information. And as Anand mentioned, we really need to see an on-demand bit of it and understand. I mean, because thank you. Anand, coming to the question, yes, what you asked is a very tough one because it's extremely tough and it gets tougher when you work with a very, very large organization and large organization as I'm working with, because that brand is an aspiration for many of us. Everybody watching this point in time, I'm sure the brand which I'm carrying this point in time, that logo is aspirations for everybody in the tech industry. So it's extremely difficult to manage your brand and to position yourself and to be there where you want to be. As Dharti mentioned, your personal brand working in a very large organization like this, because this particular brand, the brand which I'm carrying this point in time, the organization will always overshadow me, and it takes whole lot of effort to sort of build your brand working with that kind of brand, right? I mean, I'm talking about my organization this point in time, which is Microsoft. So, but having said that, it is not impossible. It is absolutely possible, and people have made that happen. And what makes that happen is your personal aspiration as well. And people might follow me, people might connect with me on LinkedIn looking at the logo which I carry, but they would not stick on to me if I'm not talking sense. So there comes the personal branding. So what you speak, what you convey, what relevance you are bringing it to the audience, that matters as well. Carrying a brand, yes, people would follow you because that's an aspiration for them to join in that particular organization, and they might see a value initially to follow you on Twitter or onto the LinkedIn. But if you are not making sense being available at that platform, they would not follow you, they will not listen to you. So content is king as per me. So you need to have the right storytelling, you need to have honesty, you need to have ethics in what you are saying, or you need to have the right case studies or right examples which you are talking to your audience or which you are talking to your followers. And that will separate you as a brand, specifically working within that brand. Still, it is pretty difficult, but slowly it does happen, and people will not only follow Microsoft, people would follow me because they would want to listen to me. They would want to understand what I'm talking about. That will position me as a thought leader. So in nutshell, what I want to convey is content is extremely important. And if you have a right content, you can certainly make a brand of yourself, even getting overshadowed by such large brands like Microsofts of the world.
Okay, so Deb, coming back to my question, thanks, Garima. That was interesting. Is there a brand building process, or can you take us through each step? If there's someone.
Anand, to your question, there's no one story around brand building process. Uh, I think it differs from the genre and the the vertical, the domain, and the purpose you are there for, right? But if I have to, from a messaging perspective, right? If I have to typically divide into four broad vectors, right? I would typically divide it into you know um, define how we want our brand to be perceived, right? So the defining the brand is very important. It's paramount, right? Which in our parlor we call is the recall, right? What do you want the brand to be recalled for? Second, and most important, and I think as a CRO of which who drives the business perspective as well, right? Aligning the organization, aligning and organizing the business, right, to the commitment of the brand is very important as well. Right? So that also, there has to be a very clear messaging of what this brand stands for. That's another vector if I have to speak about, and then align the business along with that. Right? A third, and while I'm putting it in third, but let's understand this is very important, and this kind of holds importance in every step since the time the organization is at inception till the time it exists, right, and its entire lifetime in between, is a clear communication to the audience. The communication is extremely important, right? I mean, what Garima was mentioning, right? Content is king, right? Communication is no less either, right? So it's very important that the content is communicated right in a right perspective to the right audience, and it should make relevance. It should make relevance to whom you are passing the communication to. So clear communication to the audience and what this brand stands for and how do they connect. That is also a very important perspective, as a part of the brand building process. Last but not the least, consistency is very important. Your messaging into the market or into the audience, it has to, the brand track consistency is very, very important. Right? Once it is there, right, that even if you are innovative, even if you are kind of, bringing new stories into the market or to your relevant audience, the consistency is not compromised because that, variation dilutes, the brand like none, right? That's very important, right? When you deviate, you not only go off route, you actually end up confusing your audience, right? And when you are confused, there's only one route, right? You go down south and you can go somewhere else, right? They don't relate to you anymore, right? So these are the four vectors. If I have to kind of give a perspective to what brand building process is. Now, for me, if you ask me, brand is a combination of identity and personality, right? And then very important aspect which is generally not spoken about, but we hear it on platforms, right? Is culture, right? So apart from identity, personality, culture, vision, emotions, right? They all come together to create that brand and enhance that brand process. Right? it's very important, right? And then all of it are tied through the vector of intelligence, right? So when you talk about vector of intelligence, the intelligence per se, the awareness of market, right? B How you are able to sync your story to the market, right? And then how effectively and the most simplistic way you are able to make your story relevant to your audience. So all of it, there's a lot of intelligence built in. So if you look at it, the identity, personality, culture, vision, right, emotions, and then intelligence. Right? So all of it comes together to kind of enhance that brand process. Right? And that's something which all these if you see all these are conferred by the owner of the brand. So if I'm talking about a brand, it's very important as the face of the brand that I resonate all of it. Right? I resonate all of it so that and that is kind of it also touches upon the topic of today, in terms of the personal branding as aspect as well, right? So as a face of the brand to start with, it's very important that I have I represent all of these. I represent all of these, the four vectors to start with, and then the enhancements that I spoke about, which is identity, personality, culture, vision, emotion, and intellect. So all of it, are tied together, and that's when you create a more dynamic process of brand building. I think that's what my perspective is.
Sure. No, it makes sense. It makes sense. And I think it's a continuous or continual evaluation exercise wherein you keep evaluating whether, how it is being perceived, where are you heading, you keep doing changes, modifications, tracking, put it in the
Yeah.
right track and so on and so forth. Thank you so much, Deb. Dharti, how much an organization should take interest, and it's a very tricky question, in its leadership brand building? Currently, do you think, is it less, more, or optimal? I know we can't generalize, but still, what should an individual do differently?
In childhood, we had studied that salt is essential for body,
Mm-hmm.
and a daily intake of salt is essential. That is how much personal branding is important, or brand leadership, brand building is important in an organization. Uh, to define it in a very clear, in a very regular way, so that everybody understands, is leadership brand building is nothing but what your leaders in the organization are known for. In our regular day-to-day life, we need idols that we want to follow. In a very similar way, it is essential that your team and your company has idols that they want to follow. Apart from earning a daily wage, they actually would want to come to your office, your organization, to work with somebody that they look up to. That is how much brand building is. It gives motivation to you, to your firm, to your association, and to your internal customer, that is your employees, your team. Now, taking it to beyond that level, taking it to an organizational level or global level, when you have a strong leadership branding, when you have a strong leadership board, what happens is you gain a lot of attention. If you're looking for investors, investors are now interested in you because they trust you, because they trust your leaders. They know that there would be some consistency and growth coming from you. Now, because that is happening, because you have great leaders, different organizations would want to work with you. That means there'll be sales that would be coming in, there would be partnerships that would be coming in, and there would be a lot of communication that would be happening around the globe because of strong leadership board that you have. Now, these leaders, these brands would also bring to you a good quality of employees. People would come and apply to your company. They would come, they would want to get hired by your organization because you have a strong leaders board. Building a leadership board is very essential. And the question that you asked me, Anand, that whether it is less, okay, or high, it is not happening in a correct amount that it should happen. I believe that current organizations should push all these activities more than they already do. Every organization should have at least few employees who are regularly speaking about the company, speaking about others, and building a brand outside the brand itself. According to polls that I was actually going through yesterday, a person would trust a word of an executive or a regular employee more than he would trust a word of a CEO, CMO, or a C-suite position. That is because they connect with it. That is because they find that the other person who is speaking is just like them. So for this connectivity, for this brand building activity, not for marketing, to be very clear, this is not a marketing thing. This is not what is going to give sale tomorrow or a great deal tomorrow. It is a branding activity which is being built over days, months, and years. So for this activity itself, for creating a name for your brand itself, having a strong leadership board is very essential. It shows 10x, 20x results not today, but 1 year, 2 years down the line. Now, I'm going to give a very secret recipe, and this is only for viewers who are watching this. We are not going to share this online, so it's a very secret recipe that I'm going to share for building a beautiful leadership brand. If you are an organization of 10 to 50 employees, pick 4 of your employees who are good at communication or who are good leaders. Often, what happens is when a good leader is out there and is not able to communicate or is not able to handle, if an employee joins you, he's good at what he does, but he's not good leader. So even though you give him a good position, he's not able to work on it, make something out of it, and thus creates a bad reputation or a bad image within his employees itself. This is where the boardroom gossip happens, where isko kaise position mil gaya is the statement that we hear a lot. So pick such leaders from the very beginning itself. Train them into communication, train them into leadership, and make them grow with you. Write about them. Become an initiator, become a catalyst for their social media presence, become a catalyst for their leadership skills. If it has been 6 months since he started working, or he or she or they are good at what they're doing, write about them on your social media platform and promote them. If nothing else, they would begin their work on social media just to thank you, just to thank the organization, to show some activity. Build your leaders from the beginning. Do not build a certain skill in the technical workspace itself, but build the leadership skill, communication skill, invest in your employees. Leaders are, even though leaders are born, leaders have to be trained, leaders have to be created. All of us need a Kautalya to be there with us and train us to become the right king. Let's say while Garima proposed that of Microsoft, if Microsoft today would do a live session or 2-minute live session thanking Garima for going live with us, speaking about the company, taking the brand ahead, and congratulate her on her webinar, wouldn't this make her more confident to do such more webinars and go ahead more with such activities itself? In a very similar way, that is how a brand would grow. Be there for your employees, work for your employees, and create leaders. And this is where a lot of companies lack. They are not creating leaders, they are hiring leaders. I'll go in Hindi over here. I know we might have a lot of international people who might not understand, but for a Desi connect, I'm going to go Desi over here. यार ये बंदे को यहाँ पे क्यों लेके आए, इसने क्या किया, मैं यहाँ पे 20 साल से काम कर रहा हूँ. This is a very regular term that we hear. That is because we are hiring leaders and not creating leaders. The person who is working with you for last 20 years, make a leader out of him. And this secret recipe, though everybody knows about it, nobody is working on it. Pick your 4 leaders, train them, give them the basic skills that is required to become a leader. Not an expert in their field, but to become a leader, and grow with them. Let the company hold his or her or their hand to become something. That is how a leadership board has been created, and that is how we grow.
Dati, the only challenge which organizations face, okay, because all of us have worked in large organizations and smaller ones as well. You try, or you want to draw a line as to this much I want to invest in my personal branding of my leaders, because the brand of the organization is something sticky to the organization, but the brand of the leader is all the more, you can say, fungible, wherein if the leader goes to some other organization, he carries that brand, right? So whatever value you have increased of that organization, right, that much value is depreciated when the person goes to another brand, right?
Okay. So this is actually one of the biggest questions that have come to me when I recommend something like this in my own organization. What worse could happen if you train somebody and the person would go into some other organization? You'll always have the value that you invest time into your employees. If this person, this XYZ person has left and has taken away this brand value, another person would enter your firm, would enter your organization, which would be only attracted because you invest time into your employees, because you are a kind of organization that is into training that employee. And even though we try to draw a line, there is always a place until where we could hold the hand and then the child has to run and then the child has to walk. But take those first steps. The entire struggle, the entire requirement from an organization is these initial steps where we become a catalyst.
Why not the individual increases his brand value so much that the organization is looking up to him, right? The organization feels that, oh, he's a brand asset for us, right? I'm a big fan of Mr. Prabir Jha. Prabir Jha was the HR head of Cipla, and now he started his own consultancy. So he is an institution in himself, right? So we heard about Khud Ko Kar Buland Itna, right? Khuda tujhse puche, batate raza kya type. So the organization is looking after you, right? Wherein looking is following you. And secondly, owners, but yes, it's individuals owners as well, as to how he is carrying the personal brand and how he is ensuring that And I also got reminded when he was saying that Larry Ellison of Oracle, somebody asked him as to, you are spending so much on training, what if these people leave? So Larry said that, well, we don't train them, and what if these people stay? In the interest of time, very interesting thoughts, Dharti. But I wanted to bring the other dimension. Garima, moving on to you, Garima. How should one work on personal brand and also leaving an impact on the organization? That's where I was coming from.
As Dharti was mentioning, and I kind of quite agree with her, because nowadays employees are your assets. So, the more you invest, I don't think so we should be really fearing about employees leaving, because wherever you go, once I have worked with an organization, my heart and soul will always be there for that organization. And if the organization has invested into me, I'm going to be there. So no matter, people move on in their lives as well, right? In their personal lives as well, but they don't leave the past relationships. So that's how the organization relationship is. So sorry to kind of going back on Dharti's question, but that's what I feel as well. Coming back to the question on my personal take on how well we can differentiate between and what value you can bring back to the organization where you work in through your personal brand. Look, organization, as Dave was also mentioning, the organization brand is very large. It gets built up with years and years of time, and brand is just not the logo, brand is just not the marketing. Brand is lot about honesty, lot about ethics, lot about efficiency, lot about what brand has given back to the community. Brand is also about a lot of the social and the CSR work the brand would have done. So it is lot more than just the logo, and lot more just the advertising bit of it, and lot more just the facade bit of it. It has its essence, it has its beauty, it has its honesty within it, and it takes years and years together to build that brand. And definitely not to say the money, but in terms of the employees and in terms of the kind of efforts and the kind of value the brand would have put in. So it's extremely difficult for an individual to contribute, but certainly it is possible, because finally, as an individual, and as Dharti has mentioned before, we ourselves are a brand, and we carry our brand on all our social media, on all our interaction with our customers, and all our interaction with our community, in our interaction at personal level as well. We carry ourselves, our brand. And if we are honest in our dealings with our people, it's just not through social media, it is just not through one particular channel. But if we believe in ourselves, and if we have that commitment towards our society, towards the people whom we are serving in, we can actually giving back to our brand. We are actually going back and serving our larger brand, which is our organization brand. As an individual, our honesty, our commitment to our society, our commitment to our people, our commitment to our own employees, to our colleagues, to our friends, the same bit of it, we are giving it back to our organization as well. As a Garima, if I'm honest to my people, if I'm honest to my ecosystem around me, people are going to recognize me as Garima, who is working in XYZ brand, and that is complementing my brand as well, right? Because people are connecting me to my brand and vice versa, and brand is getting connected to me. So my honesty is getting imparted to my brand, and organization ethics and the brand value is getting associated with me. So it is a kind of win-win situation. Though I understand at a larger forum, people might believe that how can I compete and how can I really contribute to my larger brand? But yes, we do, because organization is nothing. Organization is amalgamation of all the people who are working out there. Hence the personal brand building, hence the organization expenditure, organization effort to build its employees, to create the leaders within the organization, as Dharti has mentioned, is extremely important, because we both are complementing it to each other. If organization is investing into us, we are giving back to our organization because of our own personal beliefs, and if because of our own personal honesty to the society, we are complementing to the brand as well. So this is the way we can actually contribute to the brand, and this is how good people, because if you take any honest brand out there in the world, what is brand? Brand is not logo, it's just not logo. Brand is the people. People recognize brand, and that is what people trust. The organizations make money because people are trusting that particular organization. And why they are trusting that organization? Because the people working in that organization are trustworthy. Hence it is a mutual sort of relationship.
Absolutely with you. And I think just like organizations, they ask employees or their leaders to always be vocal about their brand and their values, their culture, propagate it down the stream. So should be organization, wherein, let's suppose, perhaps a platform wherein an employee shares that yesterday this happened, this was the situation, this is the action I took, and this was the result, right? So to amplify it simultaneously, so it's a give and take, right? So because if you share anecdotes, if you share stories, it makes more sense rather than a generic statement. I absolutely agree with you, Garima. Yeah, makes sense. Okay, Deb, you come from a data center company. Okay, so let me ask you, how do you measure the effectiveness and brand value of a personal brand? Can you also measure its impact on organizational brand? That's
Yeah.
personal brand's impact on organizational brand.
It's very tough to create, a brand for yourself, like a personal brand, because the organization brand overpowers you, like what Garima was mentioning at the start of this panel discussion, right? I think I resonate with her very much. And when she was saying that, I was actually recollecting, it was all going into flashback. So it's very tough, right? Okay, I mean, we could do whatever we could do, right? And then see, but what happens is, like, in this whole process, we don't realize that when we take this brand to the market, see, when I go to a client, right, I say, or I pick up a phone and say, hey, I'm calling from HP. My appointment is auto fixed. Nobody's going to say, hey, okay, I don't have time for you, right? So that's HP, right? That's the brand, that's the organizational brand that our predecessors have done it for us. We are just reading the proof, right? Now, what happened is it is still that much. But when I'm across the table, right? I not only carry the brand, I also complement it with my persona as well, right? If if I'm carrying a brand like a global brand like HP, and then I screw it up with my stupidity, it does serious damage to brand HP, right? So that's just an example to that. Now coming back to let's move ahead. So uh, and then a lot of I moved into Tata's, and then with some other organizations, some of the large organizations in the RPG group company. I was with Zensar, managing global portfolios in business and so on and so forth. And then cut to, right, I was looking at I mean by that time it was almost 17 years in the industry, and I was sitting across my mentor, right, in HP, and we were about to sign. I was about to sign on the dotted line, getting into HP again, right, in a country head role. One of the 500 country heads that are there, right? All of it. But then people, don't people. It's very hard to leave that glamour of that logo. And I was about to sign. I was in a cafeteria, right? And I got this call from a headhunter, an executive headhunter, saying, "Hey, there's an opportunity with this organization called Pi Data Centers." I said, "Pi who?" Right? And that's precisely what I said. That in the Pi Data Center, that's okay. And they are into data center. It's a data center startup. Right? This I'm talking about 6 years back. My immediate reaction was I just excused myself from my mentor. I said, "So just give me 2 minutes." I stepped away. I had a 7 minutes chat on the clock, 7 minutes chat with that lady, and I came back and told my mentor, saying, "Chief, I think we have to hold it here." Okay. Now, say at that point, I had no clue what I was getting into. I had just no clue. But the fact that you get to you get an opportunity to build a brand, you don't get it every day. Right? In something like an HP or a Tata or a Vensa, right? You don't build a brand. You are already part of a brand and you enhance it further. Right? Here you build a brand. Now coming to this question, right? As I said, right, that I want to take it to a story. When I went in, right, now coming to this whole point of our discussion today, right, the personal branding versus organizational branding, and then obviously I met the founder of the organization, the board, and so on and so forth. I did my presentations and so on and so forth, and then we agreed to work together, right? That's way back in 2015. Now, there is where the play starts of an organizational branding to a personal branding, right? So at that point, right, be my founder's personal branding, which he acquired through his years of that he has invested in multiple global organizations and a global portfolio. He's a Silicon Valley an expatriate, and that then all of us, the early bird leaders who joined the organization, right, all our personal branding actually made the noise in the market, made the right noise in the market. So see, the measurement is very straightforward, right? The measurement is are you getting are you getting yours to what you are saying, right? Is there an interest that is getting generated, right? Let's understand the fact that we are into a data center and cloud organization, right? You can count those names on your fingers. I mean, how many do you have in India and how many do you have in the global platform? 2019, 2015, when we started, we were, a kid in the block, right? New people had questions, say, hey, why another data center? Data center is kind of a graveyard, right? It's a real estate sort of a thing, and so on and so forth. We had a tremendous trust on the story that we are building. We were defining, we were disrupting the whole data center market and defining from the stereotype of being a real estate flavored, bricks and mortars organization, industry to a technology infused industry. Right? We are taking that we are hand holding the industry towards that paradigm shift, right?
Sure.
But obviously, right. So what happened is that we could get the interest of the market, right? And today, 6 years down the line, right, we are running some of the top workloads of mission critical environments on us. Right? Some of the top brands. I mean, obviously, I can't name them right now, but some of the top brands, right, running petabytes of data. I mean, petabytes of data flowing across our networks, across the country, right? Some of the who's who of the financials and the
Hmm.
healthcares and the pharmas are running on us, right? That is a measurement, right? Anand, right? And that is what started with that personal branding, which got people interested. That trust factor on those brand, right? That got interested. And then once we established that, it established as the organization branding. When the organization branding took over, and people who came later and joined the bandwagon, for them the brand did the trick as well, right? Now, just to conclude, right, the point that Dharti was mentioning, as well as very much touched upon, is it's very important that the personal branding does not stop as your organization branding grows, because when you brand your people, right, when you enable your leaders in-house, right? I think I'm a big fan of developing leadership in-house than having an inorganic way of acquiring leaderships, right? Because if the leaders don't know your DNA, don't know the crux, they would, most often than not, they will fail, right? So when you do that, and then even if they go out, make no mistake, they still extrapolate your brand. They still extrapolate your brand because
Sure,
they were hired. They were hired because they were with you. Right. So I
sure,
think that's
sure.
that's the magic of sport. Thanks, sir.
No, no, that's great. That's great. Thank you so much, Deb. Uh,
Pleasure.
I will still connect with you to find out whether we measure the brand in kilos or in meters, or how do I measure. So, Dharti, moving on to my next question, and we are a bit short on time, so we will make it very quick. In these trying times, you all know the importance of social media and branding exercise, right? Can you share what one should do, or it's for my personal benefit, what I should do to harness the full potential of social media?
Something as simple as send a message, or whether it's your Instagram, whether it's your LinkedIn, whether it's your Facebook, send a message as your brand. Let's say somebody bought your service, somebody recently followed you, somebody recently subscribed to you, somebody recently liked your post for the first time. Send them a message, thank them. This is the most effective, the most connecting, the most honest, and the most loyalty building brand activity that you could do on your social media. Send a message. Right now, Techplus Media has 16,000 plus followers on its LinkedIn profile. I would say take out a day, send 15 messages per day saying thank you for following us. You have made lockdown possible.
Thank
And
you.
you would see results every day. And this is one simple strategy that I would recommend to every brand, every viewer, whether it is personal or organization brand. Send a message, and that's about it.
Taken for granted thing, but very important. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dharti. I take it forward. I'll That's a takeaway for me. Garima, I don't want to miss on this, and I'll give you some extra minutes for this. What sort of technology interventions one can do to increase what they've mentioned, brand recall, affinity, or increasing the overall brand value? How technology can help, Garima?
Technology is certainly helping, and there are many tools which we are using. Like I use a very important tool which is Elevate in LinkedIn. So these are the tools which help you. It's a
Mhm.
LinkedIn tool itself,
Yeah.
but that helps you posting all kind of social media messages on LinkedIn and on Twitter. I'm sticking on over here at a professional handles, which is LinkedIn and Twitter in most of
Hmm.
the cases. And of course, Facebook. Facebook also, many of the organizations are using Facebook as well and Insta as well. But mostly
Hmm.
in tech, it is LinkedIn and Twitter is what we are using. So I particularly use Elevate quite a bit in terms of
Okay.
talking about what I want. But the second most aspect, other than the tools, there are a lot many tools which helps you. But as that we also mentioned that engagement is extremely important. Unless and until you are engaging with your audience would not be knowing you. And yes, sense of gratitude is extremely important. And the third aspect which I would like to mention is honesty. and helping towards others, because it's a cluttered place to be in. There are thousands and thousands of people. There are thousands of people who are following you. You are following thousands of people. But if you're honest, if you're yourself, and if you're genuine, and if you're genuinely taking out that 1 hour in a day and replying to the messages which is coming to you, if somebody is asking you for help, be it job or be it any kind of connection or be it any kind of testimonial or references, please take out time and do it. Because most of the time, most often, we go to social media when we are looking out for a job or when we need something from them. But many a times we forget that the people out there are also in need. So take out some time and help others, because when you help others, people will help you when you are in need. And this is a kind of win-win situation. And in today's scenario, when the world is suffering and every bit, there's a lot of chaos which is happening, and if we as an individual are not taking time for ourselves and for the others who are in need, I think the sense of purpose is lost somewhere. So somewhere I feel that let's be genuine, let's be honest, let's be committed to our society, not only to ourselves, not only to our personal branding. And that would make you a brand where you would stand, where you will stand apart, and people will genuinely thank you. They might not ever meet you, they might not really give you back what you have given it to them, but the kind of honesty and the kind of thankfulness they would have for you in your heart, that will remain forever, and you will feel good about yourself. And that's where you make a really satisfying personal brand of yourself, and you would sleep peacefully every night. So that would be my last.
Absolutely. I must mention, I had great fortune of working with Mr. C.P. Gurnani personally, who's the CEO of Tech Mahindra, while I was at Tech Mahindra. And being the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company, he was also the NASCOM head at one point of time. He still always had time for anything that I had to ask to, anything that I had to discuss with him or seek his guidance. So yes, leadership is wherein you make more leaders, right? So friends, we heard about extension branding from Dharti and carrying your brand from Garima, and Deb called about brand recall and consistency of brand track. Personal aspiration or branding is important for individuals as well as organizations. It's fine. But Deb said C is K, content is king. Relevant content is the right king. It's important that there is clarity as to what do we do or what do we stand for, what do we want to be known for, and clear communication to the audience and how do they connect. I hope you could all make some sense from our discussion. It's always in organizational interest to increase the personal brand of its leaders. However, this does not dissolve the individual responsibility about building his personal brand so that you are sought after for what you carry. With this, we call it a day. I once again thank our panelists for taking out their time to share the insights with us, and thank each one of you for the participation. You can always watch this and past sessions of Marketing Mondays on demand on our portal www.cxotv.news. I wish each one of you a happy fortnight ahead till we meet again. Well, that reminds me that next fortnight session is going to be our anniversary special session. You must tune in to watch the session and also let others know. Let's get back to our day work. Thanks again. Have a great day ahead. Ciao.
For more updates from CXOTV, please like and subscribe to our channel.